Peace and love. This is Solomon Imani here with another topic to talk about. Tomorrow's Black History Month. Proud to be black. I'm proud to be just that psychologically, my attitude, the unification, everything that has to do with uplifting black people, um, especially the youth, and still connecting with the elders as well. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. So tonight, I'm going to talk about giving grace to our parents, our grandparents, and our great grandparents, and so forth, when it comes to how they raised us or how they knew to raise us. And first things first, we don't give them grace. That's God's job. Man does not give other men grace. God gives grace. We just give forgiveness. We just give forgiveness. So imagine it's the year, let's say 1800, and there's parents, black parents, in the year 1800, and they're 20 years old, and they have a couple of children here in these Americas. How do you think that they raised them children? If they were even to raise the children. Okay? Now let's fast forward another 20 years. No, let's make that 50 years. So 1850, then we got another 50 years, then we got 1900, and then after that 1950, and then we got 2000, the year 2000, and we haven't even hit 2050 yet, so we're going to start with 2024. And I bring up the past because a lot of us in my generation, I was born in 1989, we get upset on what our parents did or did not do. And we get mad at the fact that they could have raised me differently, and I wish they could have loved me more, or why come my mom wasn't there, or why come my dad wasn't there. But we have to look at things in context. The first thing that I did was to see how my mom was raised and to see what made her do the things she did before I was even here. So my mother was about 21 when she birthed me, already had three children by three different men. So I'm not saying that to shame my mother. The woman gave me birth, and I am here, and I honor her and love and respect her for that. But she had a walk way before me, and I used to be so bitter. I used to be so hurt how she could just abandon me that way because and now that I'm 34, I said, man, I think I'm a decent person. I know I'm a decent person. I know I'm a good man. So a lot of the things I do today is because of the hurt that I had from my mother, and now I I'm just on one. I gotta show myself and whoever doubted me that hey, I wasn't a mistake, right? I was meant to be here, whether you wanted me or not. So I play these psychological games with myself when I'm pumping iron or being competitive or whatever it is that helps me keep pushing through. But I don't want to get off track. But then our grandparents, our grandparents raised our parents. So you also have to ask that as well. How were your grandparents raised to raise these parents? Were they in a good position? Were they married? Was this a situational shift? You have to ask these questions because I don't know what it is about the black community. They do not like to communicate. They do not like to talk about things like we do today because there are so many nuances when it comes to um, mental health and trauma and pedophilia and rape and all some of these words and nuances to the older generations, like our great grandparents and grandparents. So they didn't know how to identify these things when these things were happening to them. So they just kept things on a hush. They took things to the grave with them. And now you may have a generation of kids trying to figure this out, kids that are suffering, kids that are trying to find these answers they can't get the answers to because they were told, hey, don't tell nobody. Don't tell anyone that the aunt did this or the uncle did this or the mother did this or the father did this. And it has destroyed many, many, many people. Um, and it's just sad. So we don't give grace. God gives grace. So all we can do is just forgive. It's not my place, it's God's place to give grace, unfavored love. So learn to forgive for yourself, learn to forgive for your family. And I hope that as we continue to progress in these years to come, in 16 years, I'll be 50. I'll be considered an old head. I'm already considered an old head now. That we can have these discussions about the context of how we are being raised. Because the way I was raised, it wasn't that great. But I had one woman in my life who I love and adore, and that was my Grammy. And if it wasn't for that woman, I would not be the man I am today. Um, if I, in my mind, removed her from my life as if she did not exist, and everything else was in motion, and I just so happened to live with my mother um, when she gave me birth, um, and it would just been terrible. So shout out to the ones who took care of me as a little boy, because those were some great times. Although there were some bad times, there were some good times that I still hold on to for sure. So God gives the grace. We just have to forgive if we want to move forward. So Black History Month, we got to forgive more. There's so much more we got to do than just forgive. Let's just start with that. Let's start having these open conversations to our parents and our grandparents if they are still living. Let's talk about how things make you feel. Because, yeah, we talk about feelings. Yeah, I feel like. That's because a lot of us are caught up in our emotions. Because if we say, I know, it may get misconstrued. So I got to tell you what the feeling is inside. Um, because I won't know until you tell me. Why did you do this? Or why didn't you do that? And the past is just the past, but some of us are stuck in that past, and it has molded us and created this person that we are today. And I don't have any regrets over my life. The one thing that I've learned that I can just change the way I look at the past, but the past I cannot change. I can look at my mother and love her more, knowing that she went through the ringer to be to where she is today. And I told her one day, I'm gonna end with this. I told her one day, I said, I if I could relive my life, I would not want to have life just so you can relive yours. That's how bad, to me, my mother's childhood and teenagehood and adulthood was. And yeah, learn to love, learn to forgive, learn to understand. And the best way to do these things is to connect with Yeshua through God. Because that's the only way. That's the way. That's the way I rock. That's the way I operate. I cannot do these things without that. Peace and love. God gives the grace, you forgive.